And it's talking about Vidura meets Maitreya. Maitreya, sorry. Yeah. If anybody is able to start with the Mangala Charan, will start ahead.
Indusa, are you able to do the Mangala Charan better?
Or Mataji could do the Mangala critic.
Hare Krishna, let me do the Mangala Charan.
Okay, I will do the Mangala. Okay.
Hare Krishna, I'm not able to hear you properly, but
You
have
do
you
the
given me
Mangala
instruction
Charan.
of doing the Mangala Charan?
Kindly, Mataji.
Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sadhana Laliti Vishaka Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priya Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhaiva cha Patitam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Dvaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Eastern Prabhu. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for doing the Mangala Charan. So today's chapter is today we are doing Canto 3, chapter 5, verse 33. The topic today is Vidura talks with Maitreya. If anybody is capable of reading the Sanskrit and translation, and also the word-to-word translation is Gayatri Mataji. Are you able to read the Sanskrit, the verse for today?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Yes, sure, Prabhuji, but I need a minute to get the book, Prabhuji. Is that okay? Or if you
Okay.
can share it, I can read, Prabhuji. 1 minute. 3 5 33 3 5 33.
Yes, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. कालामयां स योगेन भगवद्वीक्षितं नभः नभ नभसो अनुसृतं स्पर्शं विकुर्वान् निर्ममे अनिलम्. Synonyms: Kala, time; Maya, external energy; Amsha Yogena, partly mixed; Bhagavat, the personality of Godhead; Vikshitam, glanced over; Nabha, the sky; Nabhasaha, from the sky; Anusritam, being so contacted; Spasham, touch; Vikurvat, being transformed; Nirmame, was created; Anilam, the air. Translation. Should I read the translation and purport as well, Prabhuji?
Yes, Mataji, if you can.
Okay, Prabhuji. Translations and purports by Srila Prabhupada. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Translation. Thereafter, the personality of Godhead glanced over the sky, partly mixed with the eternal time and external energy, and thus developed the touch sensation from which the air in the sky was produced. Purport. All material creations take place from subtle to gross. The entire universe has developed in that manner. From the sky developed the touch sensation, which is a mixture of eternal time, the external energy, and the glance of the personality of Godhead. The touch sensation developed into the air in the sky. Similarly, all other gross matter also developed from subtle to gross. Sound developed into sky, touch developed into air, form developed into fire, taste developed into water, and smell developed into earth. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for this opportunity.
Thank you so much, Mataji, for taking us through this, the verse and the translation and the purport. So, I'm going to hand it over to Her Grace Rasa Sundari Mataji to take us through the verse for today. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you for reading the verse, the translation, and the purport. I recite some mantras for auspiciousness before we start today's discussion. Madhe Kabanga Matsangi, Madhuro Manahadana, Manishtaya Kamadaya, Madananga Namaskute, Asarva Sarukarayi, Lakini Chachapakata, Ananam Chakarachi, Mantinari, Sampayo Suvani. Hare Krishna, everyone. First of all, I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master and unto his spiritual master and unto Srila Prabhupada and all our Guru Vaishnava Acharyas going all the way back to Sri Krishna, that they can inspire me and help me to be their instrument in discussing today's class of the Bhagavatam. And I offer my obeisances unto all of you Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis present in today's class so that you may bless me, that I can speak something of value to our progress in Krishna consciousness as well as for my own purification. Hare Krishna. So first I want to know from Ishwan Prabhu is the host today, if I'll be able to share the screen. Suppose I have made a very simple presentation.
Yes, Mataji, go ahead.
Okay, okay, thank you. So, from today's verse, the text is, therefore the personality of Godhead glanced over the sky, partly mixed with eternal time and external energy, and thus developed the touch sensation, from which the air in the sky was produced. If you read this text just like that on its own, it's not going to make any sense. You have to understand from the previous text that we have been hearing from, right from text 24. Only then it will make sense. And if you see into the purport, Prabhupada actually goes into explaining all the way to text 20 to text 37. Therefore, I would want to know if I'll be allowed to go all the way to text 37. Or
Yes,
rather than,
Mataji.
yes, thank you. Otherwise, it's not going to make sense. This text alone. You have to do the text before and the texts that come after this. So Prabhupada says here, all material creations take place from subtle to gross. Similarly, this this class today, Srimad Bhagavatam class discussion as manifested. I remember in the year 2020 when there was COVID, there was lockdown, everyone was at home. That's when this discussion manifested. Initially, it was a Bhagavad Gita discussion, and it continued on to being a Srimad Bhagavatam discussion, and now you're on the third canto. So how did this manifestation happen? That we are all meeting from different places in Eldoret, and myself in Nairobi, and others probably in other places. We are in one meeting on Zoom. How has this manifested? It started as from subtle to gross, as Prabhupada is saying. It was someone's idea during lockdown. Let's start a Bhagavad Gita discussion. They thought about it, and then they articulated it by mouth. And now it's been going on from 2020, and now we're in 2025, 5 years. So that's just an example of one manifestation. And in a similar way, the material world in which you see today, all the living entities beginning from the self, your body, cows, elephants, insects, plants, mountains, rivers, the sky, the air we breathe, they all manifested from subtle to gross. And therefore, to understand that, I'm going to take you all the way back to text 24. Here we are. I've prepared a very simplistic presentation, like a high school presentation of notes. I planned to make a PPT, but I ran out of time due to different services and a Kirtan festival which was happening here, which was highly involving. Anyway, that's not an excuse, but I guess most of us in the audience can relate to high school notes, and therefore my presentation is in such a manner, laughable but understandable. The point is we understand. So if you have your Bhagavatam with you, it would be nice if we go along together. I know we did this revision the previous time, but it would be nice to go over and over again. Then we will remember. Practice makes perfect. So the more we repeat, the more we will remember. And that's why we always chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, repeating it many times so that we can remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So text 24 of this chapter, Vidura talks with Maitreya from text from Canto 3, Maitreya is telling Vidura that the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the beginning was alone, and he was the only seer. He is the source of all sources, Sarva Karana Karanam. He has no beginning, he has no end, and from him everything comes. And then he goes on to explain how everything comes. So in the next text, text 25, I'll not be reading the texts, but if you have your Bhagavad Gita there with you, it's good to confirm that what I am presenting is making sense. Prabhupada says we should not trust blindly. So then in text 25, it's explaining how the Supreme Lord was the only seer, was the only one present, and he desired that material manifestation happens. But then it was dormant. The material manifestation was dormant. And then Maitreya Muni goes on to explain the Supreme Lord's, this SL is Supreme Lord's energies. That's why I said they're high school notes. That's why they even have short forms. Don't mind as long as you understand. So the Supreme Lord has multifarious energies. In Sanskrit, this is called Parasya Shakti Vividaiva Shruyate. He, when he wants to enact something or when he wants to do any activity, he does that through his energies. And he has three energies. Number one, called the internal energy. And Maitreya Muni tells Vidura that this was already manifested. I hope you can see my cursor. This was already manifested, the internal energy. What is the internal energy? The internal energy is the spiritual world. We are living entities. There is a material world, which is the external energy, and there is a spiritual energy, which is a spiritual world, where the Supreme Lord exists. So because the Supreme Lord was already present, as we saw in text 24, he was the only seer, he must have been residing somewhere. And his residence, which is the spiritual world, was already manifest because he was already existing. And his external energy, which Prabhupada says is also called Maya or illusion, was dormant. And this external energy is the cause and also the effect of the cosmic manifestation, or rather the cosmos, what is known as the cosmos, the entire material manifestation. And then the third energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it's not described there in that text, text 25, but the Supreme Lord has three main energies, the internal energy, external energy, and marginal energy. That is the Antaranga Shakti, Bahiranga Shakti, and the Tatashta Shakti, which is the marginal energy, which makes up the living entities. These had also not been manifested. The living entities had also not been manifested. And therefore, the next text, text 26, Vidura Muni is being explained to the appearance of the living entities, which is the third energy of the Supreme Lord, the marginal energy, comprising of the living entities, not only human beings, but all souls. By the term living entities, we mean the spirit souls, which are parts and parcels of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are not created. They just become manifested in the material world. So, how did the living entities make their appearance? So, in that text, Maitreya is explaining the Supreme Lord as his Purusha incarnation, the first Purusha incarnation, who is used in the first interval of creation, as we explained in the last class, that creation happens as per intervals. So, at the interval of Karnodaksha Vishnu, which is the first Purusha incarnation of the Supreme Lord, Karnodaksha Vishnu also has another name, which is a bit more difficult, Karnarnavasha Vishnu. But simpler name is Mahavishnu. So Mahavishnu, from him, the living entities appear. And how does this appear? He impregnates the living entities into material nature, which material nature is part of the second energy of Krishna, the external energy, which we say is called Maya or illusion. Therefore, how does that happen? How does Mahavishnu impregnate the living entities into material nature? You can see that pair of very nicely drawn and colored eyes of Mahavishnu. And he does this by using these eyes to glance into material nature. And he uses an influencer, which is called eternal time. You know, this is like a catalyst. I say these are more like chemical reactions. Here actually we are studying biology, chemistry, physics, I don't know what it is, but in general it's science. And this impregnation by the glance of Mahavishnu using eternal time, which is also Mahavishnu or the Supreme Lord in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Karosmi, eternal time I am. Then the living entities they appear into material nature, but it's all not divisible. You can't see every individual soul. It's all a big sum, and therefore in the next text, we see the Mahat Tattva, which is a result of this appearance of the living entities. Because now we have the material nature has been impregnated with living entities. So then there is formed a kichiri or giveri in African terms, meaning a mixture of many things into one, which is called the Mahat Tattva. And this Mahat Tattva comprises of the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, ignorance. And now the living entities, who are the souls, are also included. So this is the Mahat Tattva. This is the creation of Mahavishnu after using these very beautiful eyes, I see drawn here, and impregnating material nature. So then, from the Mahat Tattva, we said it's a whole giveri, beans and oil, giveri makaranga. I mean, it's been fried using oil. So there is beans, there is oil, and there is maize. So there's the living entities, there's eternal time, and there's the three modes of material nature. They are all into one. So Maitreya continues explaining that for them to become distinct manifestations, they have to differentiate. They have to become separate entities. So now he goes on to explain what happens from there. So the differentiation of the Mahat Tattva, we said the Mahat Tattva is mainly or chiefly in the mode of ignorance, because there are three modes: goodness, Sattva Guna, Raju Guna, which is passion, and Tamo Guna, which is ignorance. And this Mahat Tattva is mainly in the mode of ignorance. And at this point, I would want to ask someone from the class who was in my class the previous time to explain why the Mahat Tattva is mainly in the mode of ignorance. Dennis was there, Kirtika Mataji was there. Someone can raise their hand and say, I don't remember who else was there. Did you understand the question?
No, can you please repeat the question, Mataji?
The question is, the previous class I spoke on text 28 on the differentiation of the Mahat Tattva. It said that the Mahat Tattva, which is this conglomeration or the mixture of the three modes of material nature and the living entities, of course with time, eternal time, is mainly in the mode of ignorance. Mahat Tattva is said to be chiefly in the mode of ignorance. Why is that? I gave two reasons. The previous class. Who remembers?
Mahatattva is in the mode of ignorance, Mataji, because it is it. I lost my thought, but I was thinking of Shiva and how he is the Lord of ignorance, and that is his jurisdiction. And because these elements are in the sleeping form, they are in the inactive form. So therefore, they are in the mode of ignorance. Because when you are in the mode of ignorance, you know that you sleep a lot. So they are not yet activated.
Thank you very much, Kirtika Mataji. Kirtika Mataji has given us one reason that mainly the Mahat Tattva here, even if it's differentiating, it's still dormant. You know, and it's in a sleeping mode. That's what dormant means. And therefore it's chiefly in the mode of ignorance. There was also another reason. Let's see who remembers.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Can I try, Mataji?
Yes, please go ahead.
Because Mahatattva is in mode of ignorance, because when we come as souls and when we separate from God and when we are coming down as souls, Mahatattva is created so that we kind of forget our own self as well as God, and we are covered by this false ego, which kind of makes us forget about God. And we think that we are like we are only great, and we think that we have to enjoy this material world, and we think we are the cause for everything what we are doing. So it covers our intelligence, Mataji.
Yes, thank you so much. Yeah, that's a good attempt. Anyone who wants to clarify, because she's tried, but it can be more specific than that. Anyone who has a more specific answer? Okay. Let me save the day. Yes, like Mataji said, when we come into this material world, we have to forget our real identity, and therefore we can function in the material world. That is the cause of possible, and therefore we are chiefly in the mode of ignorance. But more specific is that most of the living entities in the material world, even currently as we speak now, are bound by the mode of ignorance. I said in the previous class, fewer living entities are transcendental, not even fewer, almost zero. And those who are transcendental, maybe they are not living entities in the material world, they have come from the spiritual world. To save those living entities who are in the material world. But fewer living entities are in the mode of goodness, even fewer in the mode of passion, and majority are in the mode of ignorance. So the Mahat Tattva is chiefly in the mode of ignorance. By one, it's dormant, or it's in a sleeping position in easier terms. And number two, most of its constituents is living entities in the mode of ignorance. So therefore, the Mahat Tattva is chiefly in the mode of ignorance. These are
Mataji, sorry, can you repeat it? I had a disturbance, sorry.
Okay, I repeat. So I said the living entities in the material world, they are also controlled by the three modes of material nature: goodness, passion, and ignorance. We are very few living entities who are controlled by the mode of goodness, naturally. And few are also in the mode of passion, or a bit more than those in the mode of goodness. And majority of the living entities are in the mode of ignorance. Many of them are in the mode of ignorance. And therefore, the Mahat Tattva, constituting the three modes of nature and the living entities, it has a greater number of living entities in the mode of ignorance, and therefore it's chiefly in the mode of ignorance. And of course, that's one reason. And of course, the other reason you gave, that it's in a dormant state, in a sleeping state. Is that understood, Kirtika Mataji?
Yes, Mataji. Most of the living entities are in the mode of ignorance,
Yes.
and the material is dormant.
Yes.
Thank
So
you.
ignorance is base, and ignorance is the cause of suffering. That's why many living entities are suffering, and they don't know they are suffering. That is called ignorance. So now, looking at this ignorance, which is chief in the Mahat Tattva, what happens? So the mode of ignorance produces false ego. We spoke at length about the false ego. And Prabhupada called the false ego the binding force of material existence. If you don't have false ego, you cannot live in the material world. Just like all of you, it's because you have realized your false ego. That's why you are hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, so that you can try to get away from material existence. You're trying to remove this binding or this glue. False ego is the glue, gluing you to the material world. But when you get knowledge, transcendental knowledge, then it breaks away the ignorance and you come to your real identity, which is true ego. This was discussed on the previous Monday. Yeah, so now from 28, we will begin to see the differentiation of the Mahat Tattva. So now we can see the manifestation of false ego. And then from 29 onwards, we are going to zoom into this false ego. We are using the zoom app, and now we will zoom into the false ego. So 29, we see the manifestations of the false ego. Prabhupada gives another definition of false ego in the purport to text 29 and calls it the spirit of false lordship. I am the Lord of all I survey. Everything, I am the controller here. This is false ego. This is being a false lord. You crumble down the minute you can't control. And therefore, this false ego is manifested in three phases. This is just a breakdown from the text into cause, effect, and doer. That based on the false ego, it will cause something, there will be an effect, and there will be a doer of that activity. And it happens on the mental plane, or it is situated on the subtle plane. It's not gross. We already discussed in text 33 that everything begins as an idea before it can manifest into something that can be seen. And it is based on the material elements, air, water, and then into gross senses, such as the sense of hearing, touch, sound, taste, and into mental speculation, because we have the mind. And it is represented in the three modes: still, goodness, passion, and ignorance. Then in the next text, I'm going on because I know you have already covered this. I'm simply doing a revision with my very hodgepodge, not so well written notes, but I think they do. So this false ego, we see that it is represented in the three modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So in the mode of goodness, which is when false ego interacts with the mode of goodness, process called as vikarika, it transforms into the mind. This is how the mind is formed, mana. And it produces the demigods who are controllers of this material world. That was text 30. And then in the next text 31, when the false ego interacts with the mode of passion, Rajaguna, it transforms into senses, Indriyani or Indriya. And from the senses, then it produces philosophical knowledge, Gyan, and it produces fruitive activities, karma. Because from the senses, when you touch something, then you have a knowledge. Like I touch this phone, I have some knowledge that it's a phone, even with my eyes closed, because that's one of the senses. Or by seeing, by hearing, then I get some knowledge. And then through my senses, I act, fruitive activities, karma. So this is the product of having senses. And this is it's produced from the false ego, the identity you have assumed in this material world, which when it integrates in the mode of passion, then the senses are formed. And now, from the next text, from text 32, we are going to see Maitreya Muni zooming onto the senses, the Indriyas. It zooms into the senses. And the first sense we are going to see in text 32 is the sense of sound. This is produced by false ego, which is Fe, when it interacts with the mode of ignorance. Then sound is a transformation of false ego interacting with ignorance, and it produces the sky. The sky is produced from sound, Nabha. And Prabhupada says, or rather Maitreya Muni says, that the sky is the symbolic representation of the Supreme Lord. Many when we pray to God, where do we look? Many people look at the sky. Or when we see someone died, we say, oh, they look at the sky. It's representing the Supreme Lord. For people who have no deeper knowledge of the personality, of the features, of the activities, of the pastimes, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they make the sky to be the representation of the Supreme Lord. And this is a manifestation from sound. Now coming to today's text 33, here, we see the sky that we just said is the supreme representation of the Supreme Lord. Now we were not done with Mahavishnu. Remember Mahavishnu's beautiful eyes? They were glancing at material nature. So now this sky, which is formed from sound, the Mahavishnu glances at it. And he uses two catalysts this time, two influences. Remember the previous time, he used eternal time. Now here he's going to use eternal time, and here he used eternal time to get the living entities into material nature, by glancing into material nature. So now here, into the sky and into the other elements that we are going to meet, Mahavishnu will use two elements, eternal time and external energy, because he also has energy. Mahavishnu also has internal energy and internal energy, and of course the living entities, the marginal energy, are in his body. So from the sky, the Supreme Lord as Mahavishnu, using these elements, the eternal time and external energy as a catalyst, he glances into the sky, and the touch sensation is produced, Parsha. So from touch, the air we see in the sky is produced, Anira. Now we are seeing the elements. and the senses. We said that this is a zooming of the senses. And of course, they produce the elements that we see in the material world. That is what Prabhupada is saying, that what we see as a manifestation is produced in Satu. Because touch, what is touch? It's Satu, you really can't, you can't explain it. Of course, hands will come afterwards, the working senses, but this is the sense. The sense of touch produces air. Of course, you can't touch air, but this we have to understand by Shabda Praman, believing in the Bhagavatam. This is what we are being told, that air is produced from the touch sensation. And then, because Prabhupada in the purport goes to explain the others, we are going to look at 34, 35, 36. And from air, now air, when it interacts with the sky, this sky, form is produced, rupa, something that we can now see. Of course, we are going to be told about the working sense of seeing in the text to come. And from form, electricity or fire is produced. That is called jyoti. And this is the right to see the world. So it comes from form. And form comes from integration of the sky and air. This is a bit difficult to understand. Best way is to just believe. And these are technical topics. And then in text 35, the electricity that has been produced from form interacts with air. And the Supreme Lord again uses his beautiful eyes, glances over that electricity, integration of electricity and air, using his catalyst, eternal time and external energy. And from there, water and taste are produced. Now here Prabhupada in 33, he says that electricity, this electricity mixed with air, glanced by Mahavishnu with this catalyst, it produces taste, and then taste produces water. Of course, we can't, that's what Prabhupada says. Although Maitreya Muni is saying that it produces water with taste. But Prabhupada extrapolates and says that first taste is formed and then water comes. And then in text 36, Maitreya Muni goes on still zooming on electricity. That electricity, when it is grasped by the Supreme Lord, using the eternal time and external energy as influencers, and then it produces water, and this water produces earth, and the earth is characterized by smell. Then the sense of smell comes about. Remember, we are still zooming on the senses. So far we have sound. Where is sound? We have sound, hearing, and then we have touch, we have form, we have taste. And now we have smell, characterizing the earth. And we are told that the earth comes from water. And I'm just concluding today's class. 37 says that all physical elements from the sky, all of them from the sky to the earth, are due only to the touch of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his glance. So when you hear the sense of sound, when you touch, when you see something, form, when you taste sumptuous, wonderful prasadam, or when you taste when you smell, whatever you may smell, of course, best is to smell wonderful smelling flowers that have been offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You should remember that all these senses have been manifested by the glance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And from these senses, the material manifestation, the beautiful sky, the air we breathe, the fire or electricity by which we see, the water we drink, and the earth we walk on have been manifested. Therefore, we should always remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead in by seeing His manifestation of this material world, of course with the senses that are there in our body, and with the material manifestation that can be seen, heard, and touched, and of course smelled from those senses. And we remember that they are all existing because of the Supreme Lord glancing over them. Therefore, we are all products of the Supreme Lord, and everything is a product of the Supreme Lord. And I will end my presentation there and hand over to you, wonderful Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, who have patiently listened to today's class. And if there are any clarifications, questions, or comments, you're welcome. Today is a very technical, these are very technical subjects. There are not many stories to tell. It could be a bit boring, but it's important to understand where the world that we are seeing from has come from. The knowledge of knowing who I am, what surrounds me, meaning the material world, the material manifestation, and who has made it, and the relationship between me, the material world, and the one who has made it, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is called Sambandha Gyan. And this is the start of knowing, and this is the start of knowing how now to interact with this, by which, from which Abhidheya, the process of devotional service, is developed. So Sambandha Gyan is the basis of the process of devotional service. And then from Abhidheya, then we know the goal. What should be our goal in living in this material world? Therefore, what is being explained here is the basis of devotional service. It's not utterly useless. May seem complicated, may seem technical, but it's a base to the process of devotional service. So if you have any questions, comments, or clarifications, we are welcome.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for the wonderful discussion. Thank you for taking us through the previous verses, and it really helped us understand today's verse and also the forthcoming verses. And at least we understood the interrelationship between Krishna, his glance, the eternal energy, and also eternal time, and the manifestations that we currently observe by his grace, by his mercy. And I do not have a question. I was just complimenting. I was giving a comment, and thank you so much for taking our time to take us through the previous one. If there is anybody who has a question or a comment or any feedback, please feel free to share. I don't think there is any. Okay,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mute. Oh, sorry about that.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Do you have a question or a comment?
Hare Krishna, everyone. Thank you so much, Your Grace of Sundari, for that beautiful class on this really deep text of the Srimad Bhagavatam. It brought so much clarity on how we on how to view these verses. I can say honestly, the first time I read this Canto 5, I was so sleepy. I did not even know what I was reading. But now, from this class, I'm really bringing things together. And thank you so much for giving us that clarity. Mataji, there was when we were talking of this creation of everything in this material world, I was thinking about the living entities or the pure living entities in Goloka, in the spiritual world. Where are they in the picture when everything is happening, when the Mahatattva is differentiating? Are they just observing since they are not annihilated or anything? They are not part of this false ego. And yet we saw that in the beginning, Krishna was the only seer. I was wondering if he was the only seer, where are these liberated souls that are in the spiritual kingdom? Are they part of this, or are they just observing what's really happening, what Krishna is doing? Just maybe kindly clarify. Otherwise, thank you so much. Discourse really put things.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mogo Prabhu, for that question. Where were the living entities who are in the spiritual world? So we already said in 625 that the Supreme Lord was there, Ion, and the Supreme Lord has three energies: the internal energy, the external energy, and the marginal energy. So the living entities in the spiritual sky are not part of the marginal energy, are not the Tashta. They are part of the internal energy of the Supreme Lord. The internal energy is not just the spiritual world, it's the spiritual world with all the residents of the spiritual world who exist eternally with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And they are always manifested. But the living entities who are part of the marginal energy, then they are parts of the many, they were unmanifest. And therefore they come to the material world when it's manifested. And while in this material world, if they perform pure devotional service, then they go to the spiritual world, which is the internal energy. So living entities here is referring to the marginal energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are marginal because they can either be in the external world, the material world, or be in the spiritual world. But those souls that are in the internal energy, we don't even call them living entities. We call them the Supreme Lord's eternal associates. They are forever in the internal world, and they are part of the internal energy of Krishna, which was already manifested. So only the jivas, they are not jivas. The living entities, or rather the souls, Krishna's associates in the spiritual world, are not jivas. They are not conditioned. They are always with Krishna in the spiritual world, which is always manifest. It never gets annihilated, it never gets created. It exists eternally along with Krishna. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, yes. And so in verse 24, when he says the cosmic manifestation was not present at that time, that is the living entities, the internal energy of and thus, but he felt imperfect without his planetary and separated parts and parcels. Perfect because of he was without us, the marginal energy, but he was still with the but he still even though he was still with the associates, his internal associates. I mean his associates. He still felt imperfect because we were not there at that point of us now, us who are the marginal energy.
Yes. Yes, you have a clear understanding. Yeah, so that's why the material and world or the external energy is manifested because we are separated from Him. But the living souls in the spiritual world are not separated from Him. If you've read 24 properly.
So
Yeah.
could I insinuate maybe the goal is eventually all the separated souls to become internal energy? All the become the internal energy. For example,
Yes,
all the energy
come again.
associates. Would I be wrong if I insinuate the goal is all the marginal energy is internal energy, is internal potency, to make all these marginalized souls, separate souls, to internal energy, where the
Why
souls
am
are
I
one.
not? Sorry, I'm unable to hear the last part. Can you insinuate?
No, I was saying, maybe would there come a time when all the dormant material energies that have become marginalized in as us separate souls, person parcel, where we become part of the internal potency? There's no dormant manifestation. There's no separate parcels, separate parts. All of them are internal potency, are parts
No,
of spiritual.
no, there
Yes.
never come a time when all the marginal energies will become parts of the internal energy because we are all at a different consciousness. The marginal energy is very variegated also. Everyone is at a different frequency of consciousness. Therefore, others will go back to Godhead fast, and others will be here for millions and millions of lifetimes in the material world, being conditioned here. So, and this is because we are individuals. So there not come a time where we are all going back home, back to Godhead. Some will be left, some will go.
Thank you.
Did I get you?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes, yes. Because even in normal school, in a normal school, some graduate, some don't graduate. Not everyone graduates. And therefore, in the school of living in the material world and doing devotional service, some will be left behind, and some will go back home, back to God, enjoying the internal energy, while others will remain as givers.
And maybe one last one.
Mm.
Can I also be correct to say the separated parts and parcel have been reducing since the beginning of time because they've been going to the internal energy, like they have been reducing in terms of quantity. So maybe since when you go to the internal energy, when you go back to God, there's no coming back to the material realm. So I can say one soul goes back to God, yeah, less one soul in the material world. Or is there a system now other souls come back to this dormant world that were never there even in the first place? Because
Yeah, because the Supreme, yes, the Supreme Lord is creating in different universes, is creating and creating. So not all the universes are existing at the same time in the material world. Some universe is being created where another is being annihilated. It's a complex topic. Yeah. So you can't really say that that they are reducing because there's no really balance where you can say that now the living entities in the material world are reducing and the living entities in the spiritual world going to the spiritual world and are increasing because there's an overlap. One universe is manifesting, another one is being annihilated. it's a very complex, should I say, manifestation process. It's not all happening at the same time. So you really can't. These are activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are achintya, inconceivable to the material mind. You only understand them by understanding that you cannot understand.
Wow.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Are there any other questions in the group? Hare Krishna. If there are no more questions, I will request Priya Govinda Das Prabhu to kindly end the session for us today. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I'm so fortunate to have your association on this Monday evening. And Mataji has explained to us very nicely the process of creation as explained by Maitreya Muni. And we have seen how the gross element, five gross elements manifest themselves in the form of sound, touch, taste, and smell. All these from actually a recap from text 20 something, 24 to actual 37, and it's quite enlightening. So we are grateful for this wonderful class by Mataji. For the sake of time, I don't want to add anything. Mataji has already given a very elaborate lecture. And for her glorification and glorification of everyone who has attended this wonderful Bhagavatam session, kindly let us unmute ourselves and chant one round of Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha Karupatarubhyacha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namo. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Her Grace Rasa Sundari Mataji ki, Jai Nitai Gaura Hari Premanande. Hari Hari. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.